Sad news out of New York. The first African-American female and Muslim judge to serve on New York's highest bench has been found dead. NYPD officers recovered Judge Sheila Abdus-Salaam's body from the Hudson River Wednesday afternoon, hours after she was reported missing by her husband.
Welcome back to Melanin Mysteries. Today, we're diving into the life of Sheila Abdus-Salaam, the trailblazing judge whose untimely passing left many questions unanswered. From her humble beginnings in Washington, D.C., to her historic appointment as the first Black woman on the New York State Court of Appeals, Sheila's journey was nothing short of remarkable. But what were her last moments on April 12, 2017? Join me as we explore her incredible career, personal struggles, and the mysterious circumstances surrounding her death. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Your support is appreciated. Let's get into today's case. Sheila Abdus-Salaam was born on March 14, 1952 in Washington, D.C. to working-class parents, and she grew up with 6 siblings. Growing up, Sheila became interested in the law after watching TV shows like East Side, West Side, and Perry Mason. As well, in the late 1960s, lawyer and civil rights activist Frankie Muse Freeman visited her high school and made quite an impression on her, where years later, she spoke about Frankie, saying that she was riveting and was doing what she wanted to do, which was using the law to help people. Sheila had attended and graduated from Barnard College in 1974 with a bachelor's degree in economics and received her law degree in 1977 from Columbia University School of Law, where she was a Charles Evans Hughes Fellow. She began her legal career in 1977 as a staff attorney at East Brooklyn Legal Services Corporation. 3 years later, she joined the New York State Department of Law as an assistant attorney general in the Civil Rights and Real Estate Financing Bureaus, where she remained until 1988. During that year, she became general counsel for the New York City Office of Labor Services, serving until 1991, the year of her election to the New York City Civil Court bench and the beginning of her distinguished judicial career. Sheila spent 2 years as a civil court judge until 1993, when she was elected to the Supreme Court of the state of New York for New York County. As a Supreme Court justice, she first sat on the criminal term during 1994 and 1995. In 1996, she was assigned to the civil term, where she remained until March of 2009. At which time, Governor David A. Patterson appointed her to the Appellate Division, First Department. Then in April of 2013, Sheila became the first Black woman to be appointed to the New York State Court of Appeals. And it really meant a lot to her because she talked about how historically she was the great-granddaughter of slaves.
My grandfather, who died when I was in high school, grew up on a farm in Arrington, Virginia, and in researching that history, I discovered that I am the great-granddaughter of slaves. That's important because this great-granddaughter of slaves is the first African-American woman on the highest court of the state of New York. I sit on the Court of Appeals, and I was appointed by Governor Mario Cuomo this past spring. And as I mentioned, I'm the first in the 166-year history of that court. So all the way from Arrington, Virginia, where my family was the property of someone else, to my sitting on the highest court in the state of New York is amazing and huge. And it tells you and me what it is to know who we are and what we can do.
When it came to her personal life, Sheila had battled uterine cancer and got through it. And in the past 5 years, She went through the loss of her mom and her brother. She was also divorced 3 times and got remarried to her 4th husband, a priest in 2016 whom she shared a New Jersey home with. She also had a second home in Harlem, a brownstone, which she bought in the 1980s. Sheila's life was not perfect, but it was something to be proud of, since she was beating the odds and making history while doing it. But it all ended when she met her untimely demise. On April 11, 2017, the judge called in sick that day and hadn't gone to work. At 8:30 p.m., she had left her Harlem brownstone, locking the door behind her, leaving her phone and wallet. Surveillance videos, spaced over several hours, would show the judge walking quickly, alone, toward the Hudson River, wearing a black hooded sweatshirt, sweatpants, and white sneakers, as though she were exercising. The last video showed her alone near the Hudson River at around 12:30 a.m. on April 12, 2017. The next afternoon, her body, dressed in the same clothing, would be discovered floating at the edge of the river at an area popular with joggers and bicycle riders. She also had a Metro card on her.
There is no apparent injuries to her body. It appears to be non-criminal at this point. There's an autopsy that's proceeding right now as we speak, so we'll know more. All of her property has been recovered.
Based on how she was discovered, police concluded that her passing was due to suicide, but the judge's husband, whom she had been married for 8 months, challenged the speculation that his wife had unalived herself. He made a statement saying, "Those who knew her well do not believe that these unfounded conclusions have any basis in reality." On April 18, 2017, police declared her death to be suspicious as there was no suicide note and there were no witnesses. An autopsy by the medical examiner produced a number of results regarding her cause of death. The autopsy determined that the cause of her death was drowning as there was water in her lungs, suggesting that she was alive when she went into the river. There were also bruises on her neck, and there was a possibility that she had been choked sometime, even days earlier, before going into the water. But investigators indicated it was possible the marks could be due to bruising sustained during her body's retrieval. As well, one police source connected the bruising on her neck to the 15-foot drop into the water from where she might have jumped. They said, "It makes sense that the only visible sign of anything to her body is very, very slight minor bruising on part of her neck. Not like she got strangled, but just like an inexplicable bit of bruising on the side. You could potentially get some bruising on her from smacking into the water." Because investigators could not determine the circumstances of her passing, a special team of investigators were assigned to the case and treated her death as suspicious. When it came to the suicide theory, there were sources which suggested that Sheila was going through mental health issues. According to one of Sheila's close friends, Marilyn Mobley, she told the New York Times that they had breakfast together 2 weeks prior to her passing, and during that time, she said that Sheila talked about being stressed out and having trouble sleeping, and that even though Sheila was accomplished, resilient, and strong, she had a breaking point. Another source stated that 2 days prior to her passing, Sheila had went to her doctor and told him that she had been stressed with the demands of work and not spending time with her husband. Also, there was a police source that said that the judge had a recent battle with depression, and a well-placed court source added that she was taking medication for her darkening moods just a few weeks before she passed. But NYPD's chief of detectives, Robert Boyce, told reporters that NYPD did not know of any prescribed medication the judge had been taking, and that he had gone through her apartment and found no drugs. Also, there were reports about her family, and they had a history of unaliving themselves. Going back to the passings of her mom and brother, sources claim that her 92-year-old mom had unalived herself during the Easter holiday in 2012, and her brother did the same 2 years later. But her family disputed those stories, saying in a statement that her mom actually died naturally of old age, and her brother of terminal lung cancer. Other people who knew Sheila did not agree with the whole suicide theory.
I don't believe she committed suicide. She could have been there going shopping at Fairway and gone across the street.
There's water that's closer.
Very close. Yeah, exactly. And easier to get into, if you will.
I see if she got killed or something like here on the street or somebody shot her, but just to be found in the river, that's not her. That's not her at all.
Sheila was last seen on the subway by her longtime friend and former state assemblyman, Keith Wright, and he said Sheila was one of the most rational, measured, and intellectual people that they've ever known and doesn't believe she unalived herself. And the judge's neighbor, 60-year-old John Audate, described her as a fish in water and said how Sheila told his wife how much she loved the beach and pools when she was a girl. So her drowning to death didn't make much sense to him. There was also a theory that suggests that Sheila may have met her demise due to her dedicated liberal voice. Prior to her passing, she regularly sided with immigrants, the poor, and people with mental illnesses against established interests. She also leaned towards injured parties who sued wealthy corporations regarding fraud or misconduct. Overall, she had a reputation for fighting against corruption and police brutality, but there were no indications she was disliked by police or prosecutors. Suspicions regarding her passing were ignited in part by the death of another black judge the day before in Illinois.
News Dorothy Tucker reports Judge Miles was shot to death outside his home.
Cries of grief from relatives hearing the news that Cook County Judge Raymond Miles was dead.
This morning, me and my husband was getting up at 5:30 and we heard 2 big gunshots.
The gunshots came from the judge's home. Police say his female companion was headed to the garage when she was approached by a man.
Words were exchanged and the offender shot the female victim, who was struck 1 time in the lower extremities.
Hearing the shots, Miles ran to the porch.
They exchanged words with the offender before he was fatally shot multiple times.
Do you have any indication that the woman knew the man that she was speaking to outside who shot her?
We do not believe that she knows the suspect that shot her.
So among the motives police are pursuing, attempted robbery. However, nothing was taken from the victims or the home, and police say the suspect fled on foot.
On May 3rd, NYPD announced that they completed their investigation and concluded that Sheila had taken her life. And that's the story of Sheila Abdus-Salaam, a pioneering figure in the legal world whose life and legacy continues to inspire. The circumstances surrounding her passing remain shrouded in mystery, with conflicting theories and unanswered questions. What do you think really happened to Judge Abdus-Salaam? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to Melanin Mysteries and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Your support helps me continue to uncover and share important stories like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Melanin Mysteries.